Hi there, my name is Michelle Houghton and I run a blog called at scrapweaver.com, and that is where Copic in the Craft Room is based, and you can find all of my doings there. I teach Copic information, and I'm here today at Tailored Expressions to share a new product that they have to share with you off their blog. And it is some color charts, and this particular set is to collect your fur color combinations, and this is specifically geared toward Copic, but you could always use this for other mediums that you are dabbling in. So that comes in 3 parts. So the first part, you can see there's some images that are already colored, and those are actually, they've got color selections all mapped out for you and actually colored in so you can see what they would look like. Part 2 is those same little dogs with the color selections kind of right beside them, but you get to color the dog in, so you can try out those color combinations, and that's what I'm going to start with today. I'm going to show you coloring one of those up. It also gives the colors that they used on the tongue and the nose, just if you want to fill those in as well. So we're going to try this warm gray puppy dog. And then the third sheet's going to be one that doesn't have any information on it, just the image, so you can start collecting images or color combinations of your own. So what I have found is I actually tend to work with Copics from light to dark, and so I'm starting at the bottom of the list and working my way up. I've got a W1 that I am starting with. So the W, if you haven't worked with Copic before, stands for warm. There's 4 different gray families in Copic, and the W stands for the warm family, and the 1 just means that it's one of the really light ones. So as we get higher in those digits, it's going to get darker. So I'm going to add right on top of my W1 some W3, and I'm going to come in around from the edges. What I'm trying to do is make this little animal look curved, like it looks more 3-dimensional. So I'm thinking about what shape he is or her and trying to add that shape in by adding some of that shading. And really, as much as anything, I'm testing out this group of colors and so that I have it for reference in the future. So I'm trying to, this is a nice simple image. We can do these fairly quickly. W5 is next, and I'm kind of flicking in from the edges again. This time it doesn't go as far. So shorter little strokes with the W5. And that's going to keep it further out to the edge. And again, that's just deepening that shadow so that it, again, is creating that roundness to his head and body. Coming back with W3 to soften up the edge. So I'm starting on the darker W5 and brushing out onto the W1. That's going to help blend those colors together. Copic blends really easily, and the grays in particular kind of melt together, which makes that really easy. W1 is next, and a lot of times, even when I'm just aiming for the blend, I have to go all the way over the center of that face. So it will get a little bit darker, but the reason for that is if that center is already completely dry, sometimes I can leave almost like a watermark. The little tongue, I'm going to go ahead and fill in on this one with that RV11 and RV14. And then I'm going to do something a little different on the nose. I'm going to use the N7, which is one of the colors she used. And then I'm going to use a 100 all the way out at the edge. And then I'm going to come back in with a colorless blender on that light spot, and that's just going to soften the edge of the N7 just enough. So real similar, but a little bit brighter highlight on mine. Now I'm going to try a color combination of my own, and what I'm going to use are some, it's kind of a dark brown, kind of leaning toward brown black. The first in the series is an E43. So I'm going to fill them in, kind of get all of those little edges and get that kind of nice bottom coat. And I know I've got more layers coming, so if it's not completely smooth yet, it's a little bit of blotchy, that's going to be okay. I'm really just attempting to fill them in. And when I do this aspect part of coloring in, I tend to use little circular strokes. The only reason for that is that it hits those areas a couple times and gets nice thick ink color on it. E44 is next, again coming in from the edges. I've already shaded this little guy once, so I kind of have a sense of where I want to go with this. It happens each time I color an image. another time it gets easier and faster because I know where I'm going for those shadows, and it just doesn't take as long to make some of those decisions. Now I know I'm going to put a few layers on, so you can notice this first kind of mid-tone that I'm laying down. I'm pulling this even further in. I'm leaving less of the highlight because I've got 2 more colors after this that I am adding in. So this is an E47, getting into those deeper shadows. So again, it doesn't go as far as the E44. So shorter strokes, doesn't come into the image as far. Hitting into those deeper creases, little toes. And then the E49 is the last one. And notice I'm not going to go all the way around the edges here. I'm hitting the darkest corners, and it's going to help separate those sections as well. The legs, the head versus the body. Hitting right underneath that bottom edge of the face, right into the center of the ears. So it really is very, very limited as I get to that dark end. I've skipped the E47 because those 2 colors kind of melted together because they were so fast, and I've jumped back to my E44. So now I'm starting on the E47 and pulling that into all the way across the E44 and flicking out a little bit into that E43, that lightest color. So again, it's going to get a little bit darker, but it's going to help soften those edges. And then the E43 is last. I really circle pretty hard around on that edge of the E44 and then kind of flick in toward the center again to soften those edges and even that out. And if I don't like the effect, like if I don't feel like it got as smooth as I want it to, the best part is I can do a little bit of back and forth here. And so once I've got that done, I kind of take a look and I'm like, I feel like I need a little more dark here. I can add that E47, come back with E44 and E43 a little bit more on the face. And I do a little bit more on the legs too. I decide it's a little still too sharp over on one of those back legs. So E44, E43, soften that up. The other thing I think would be great to do with these particular charts is also to track kind of different textures. Because with animals, you have short fur, long fur, curly. So I'm going to use the same color combination, and I'm not going to do the whole puppy dog because you saw me color him. And I'm doing the exact same color combination, E43, E44. I'll add in that E47 and E49, but just on his face this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing with texture. And this one is a really easy technique. But this is also something you could keep track of on a chart like this, is that maybe there aren't as many fur colors, but maybe you want to start tracking, well, what would this combination look like if I add a texture to it? So that's what I'm going to do with this one. So just gives you some options of things you can kind of track and keep track of as you are getting more confident in your Copics. And that way, when you come back and say, well, I really want to do this dog exactly like I did this other one, you have a reference chart to go back to and figure out how you did it. So I'm using the same series of colors. I'm working my way back through and softening those up, blending them together. Going all the way back to the E43. And I'm going to soften that back into the lightest color. And then I've got one more step here at the end. So this is an easy technique. If you choose to use it, you want to do this before you color anything else on your page. So I'm going to use some colorless blender solution, and it's in a little misting bottle. Nothing magic about that, just a spray bottle. And I'm going to spray it onto a washcloth, and I just want it damp. I don't want it squishy wet. Like 2-3 squirts. Just damp, and then I'm going to press it and hold it onto the little dog's face. And what you're going to see is that texture from that terry cloth is going to create this little texture on there. Now, depending on how long I let that Copic marker sit, it'll add either really distinct little spots, or if it's pretty wet still, and yeah, that means you worked really fast, those spots will be kind of soft. But it gives the effect of kind of a textured fur. And so that's one thing you could keep track of on these little charts. So again, you've got kind of 3 different pieces that this PDF comes with. It comes with a page that has the colors mapped out plus the image already colored. You have a page with the blank images and the color ideas, and then you have a blank image you can play with yourself. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you will check these new items out at Tailored Expressions.